Okay, welcome to our baking show, second baking show, third show overall. Tonight we're going to make this nummy looking carrot cake, and these carrot cupcakes that are egg free and gluten free and dairy free. So since we're being so ambitious, we're going to have everything pre-measured. Just get right into it. Carrot cake is super easy. It is just dry ingredients and wet ingredients and a blender. So here we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, unbleached, 2 cups of white sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Those all go in there. I've already turned the oven on. It's preheating to 325 degrees. I'm just going to stir these. And that's the dry ingredients. On top of this, I'm going to put 3 cups of shredded carrot. Now, you can buy pre-shredded carrot. You can use a cheese grater. I used my food processor. It has a grating attachment. This is 4 whole eggs. And this is a cup of vegetable oil. Just standard store brand mixed vegetable oil. You can use canola oil. You can use avocado oil. Don't use olive oil because it's got a nice strong flavor that you don't want in your cake. So now we're going to mix this up. Mix this for about 2 minutes until it's just all cake batter. There's no vanilla or almond extract or other emulsifiers in here because there aren't very many ingredients that need to mix together. Don't get a huge blend. Now, if you like raisins in your carrot cake, now's the time to put them in. So I'm just going to stir it and make sure that everything is in there. Some people like pineapple in their carrot cake. Don't use this recipe for that. It's its own recipe that we can do later. This recipe came from Better Homes and Gardens, the cookbook with the red and white check cover, copyright 1985. Alright, we're going to need these for the cupcakes. I'm going to wash them out real quick. And the next thing we need to do is grease and flour our cake pan. You can put this into a 13 by 9 pan. You can use 2 square cake pans. These are 9-inch round cake pans. When you spraying a pan, spray it on a surface because of gravity. Anything you miss is going to fall, and if it falls on the floor, you're going to slip on it. So, next thing we're going to do is put some flour in here, and then just gently tap it all the way around. Now, the edges aren't the most important part. The middle is not the most important part. That corner right there, that's the most important part. That is where your cake is going to stick. Alright, the rest of this I'm just going to put into the sink. And then we're going to dump our half of it into here, half into the other one. Try to get them even. Don't stress if they're not perfect. Because it's a cake and everything can be fixed with a nut frosting. Alright. Give these a little wobble. And then we're going to put them in the oven, 325 degrees, for 40 minutes. If you're doing a 13 by 9 long pan, 50 minutes. When they come out, we have these beautiful cakes, which I've already split in half with a bread knife. Which has since disappeared. Okay. A bread knife has a serrated edge. A bread knife has a serrated edge, so you're going to cut through it like it's a roll or something. And just twist the pan and keep cutting. And you end up with two pieces like this. Now this, after I got it cut in half, got put into the freezer for about an hour. What that did was condense it a little bit, just a little bit. It's not going to taste like a frozen cake, but it's going to make it easier to spread the frosting. So, we're going to go make the frosting. It's a carrot cake, so it has to have cream cheese frosting. Cream cheese frosting has only 3 ingredients: cream cheese, butter, and lots of powdered sugar. So this is an entire 8-ounce bar of cream cheese and a stick of butter. These are not room temperature, but they're not cold either. They've been out for 45 minutes or so. Okay. I'm going to whip these together until they are nice and creamy. And you want to scrape it and keep it blending together. going to start adding the powdered sugar a little bit at a time. Do not add tons of this at once. You'll get a big poof cloud that goes everywhere. Now this gets crumbly because you've added some dry stuff to it. And then as you keep whipping, it starts to come back together and get creamy again. We're just going to keep adding the powdered sugar a little bit at a time. And start the mixer a little bit slower until the sugar gets into the butter. And you avoid the dust cloud. You can put a little vanilla in here. You don't have to. You can, if it gets too thick, you can add a little bit of milk. The cream cheese already has milk in it. Frosting is the air. As you whip it, you're whipping air into this, and it's getting lighter and fluffier. I'm going to keep using most of this 2-pound bag of powdered sugar. Alright, take that back. I'm going to use all of it. And you can tell by touching if it's right yet. Feels like frosting. Feels like cream cheese frosting. Now this time we're going to let it whip for a few minutes and get nice and fluffy. Despite my best efforts, I have powdered sugar everywhere, so just prepare for that. mixer. It just takes a little longer. And the longer you let that whip, the lighter and fluffier it's going to get. And it's going to come out maybe beautiful cream cheese frosting. We're going to need the whisk and the bowl for the next one, so I'm just going to clean them real quick here. This I'm going to bring back over to the cake. I'm going to put a big blob right there. I'm going to take an offset spatula and spread that around like peanut butter. Now, if we had left this to whip 3 or 4 more minutes, this would be fluffy and we'd be spreading it like soft butter. So, however you like it. Spread that out and not go all the way to the edge, but make it kind of thick. And don't worry about these crumbs. You get less of them when you've frozen the cake, but they're not going to matter because we're going to do this and squash that down there. And then we're going to do that again here. And we're going to put another layer on and again until we've got all 4 layers. And then you can spread the frosting down the sides. For the sake of time, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to put this over here. I need this bowl, so I'm going to take the frosting out. Clean it real quick. And then we'll get started on the cupcakes, which are almost the same recipe, but not. We've altered it so that there's no wheat flour, no gluten, no eggs, and no dairy in the frosting. Set that over there and clean this. There are a lot of reasons to be egg-free or gluten-free or dairy-free. This is for my cousin in the Midwest whose child is allergic to eggs, and some friends who are gluten-free for various health reasons. So this one needs 2 bowls. And one of the nice bright flavors in this cupcake is orange. So the first thing we're going to do is make some orange zest and orange juice. This is a zester. It also called a Parmesan knife if you like your Parmesan nice and fresh. When you're zesting an orange, just scrape it gently. Let the weight of the orange be your pressure, because you only want to take off the orange part. When you get down to the white part, you're not scraping zest anymore. That's pithy and not very flavorful. So here you have this nice zest. We want a teaspoon of this, which I already have in a cup over here. And then we're going to take the same orange and make juice. When you're juicing an orange, find this part where it came off of the tree and put it on the side. Keep your knife and cut it in half this way. And you end up with all the sections going around this center. This juicer, I love this juicer. I found it at a grocery store somewhere, and it fits on a mason jar. And you're going to put this part right on the top here and squash. And then you just squash this orange and you twist it, because you're rubbing it against those little ridges on the juicer. And as you rub it, juice is coming out. And the juicer is catching the flesh and the seeds and anything else. Now down here, we end up with this beautiful juice. We want a 1/4 cup of this. Which is a little more than half an orange. And then you can give the other half to the bored little one. Alright, in the larger bowl, we're going to start with our flour substitute. This is protein powder. This is soy powder. You can get whey powder, you can get casein powder, you can get a lot of different protein powders. Pick whichever one you like. This isn't flavored, but vanilla works well in this recipe. There's a pea protein powder, and there's a hemp protein powder. Don't use either of those. They have really strong flavors that'll overpower anything else you put in here. This is a flour substitute. It's Bob's Red Mill. It's made up of 3 or 4 different flours and some xanthan gum, and which is the most important thing to remember in a flour substitute. That's what your gluten substitute. So as long as it has xanthan gum in it, it's a good substitute. And then we're going to use almost the same things we used before. This is half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, only a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Because of the other flavors in here, we're going to still use a full teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Alright. And again, we're just going to stir that up. I'm going to set that over here. And now we're going to do the wet ingredients. We're going to need our mixer. Now in here, it's going to get a little different. This is our egg substitute. There are a lot of egg substitutes, and I'm using a combination of them because we don't want any one to overpower the flavor of the carrot. This is a mashed banana. I squashed it with my fingers. It's been sitting a few minutes, and it starts to turn dark as it sits. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just been there a minute. So it's a 1/4 cup. This is a substitute for another egg. Now remember that previous recipe had 4 eggs, so we've got the equivalent of 4 eggs. This is 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed and 3 tablespoons of water. It's been sitting for about 45 minutes now, and it really has the consistency of a beaten egg. This is unsweetened applesauce from my daughter's lunch stash. It is a 4-ounce cup. That is half a cup. And that's going to take the place of 2 eggs. So there we have 4 eggs. Now instead of sugar, white sugar, we're using a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now we're going to whip these together and get them all mixed up. Okay. Next step is that teaspoon of orange zest, 1/4 cup of orange juice, and a cup of shredded carrot, and teaspoon of real vanilla. I'm going to whip those together. And the last thing we're going to put in here is a cup of cooked quinoa. Quinoa is a whole grain. It comes in white, red, and black. This is a combination of white and red. I'll put in about half at a time. Don't put it in here hot. It'll start cooking things. before you're ready. So you cook it the same way you cook rice, and I use my rice cooker. This is going to help us with texture, and it's part of the place of that gluten. All right. Now, put this in there. And we're going to whip these together. And this is going to have roughly the same consistency as that other carrot cake. Now for this, do this again and make sure there's no dry spots down at the bottom. We're going to add a little bit more because it's cupcakes. This is 1/4 cup of cranberry raisins or craisins and 1/4 cup of golden raisins. I put them into boiling water and left them there for, they've been about half an hour, and they've gotten plump. They've reconstituted from shriveled up dry things. And we're going to put them in there for just a little bit more zing. You can use regular raisins, you can use currants. Dried cherries might be okay. Blueberries would probably be pretty good. Dried and reconstituted. Alright. Now, these make great breakfast muffins all by themselves. We're making cupcakes. And the difference between a muffin and a cupcake is number 1, frosting, and number 2, a pretty paper cup. We're going to line all of these with pretty paper cups and fill them almost full. Now these are going to go into a 350-degree oven for only 20 minutes. And the temperature isn't making the huge time difference, it's the compactness of the cake. They're smaller, the heat gets to the center faster. And this will make 12 cupcakes. Try to get them pretty even. Alright. And when those come out of the oven, bread knife, they look like this, and they're really quite tasty. Like I said, we have these for breakfast all the time without the frosting. We have them with the frosting. The frosting's not unhealthy. So we're going to go make the frosting now. Over here I have my whisk. And I have 1/4 cup of coconut oil. At room temperature, coconut oil is solid, like shortening. Now, you can use shortening. You can use plain old Crisco in this. Coconut oil has a less greasy flavor. Not that there's anything wrong with Crisco. It just tastes like Crisco. All right, and I'm going to put in, this is 16 ounces by weight, so 1 pound of powdered sugar. I'm going to put in a little bit, about 1 cup. I'm going to whip that up. And I just want it kind of crumbly, like the coconut oil is adhering to the sugar. It's not going to get creamy yet. Now this is soy milk. This is a buttercream frosting. So the coconut oil is taking place of the butter, and this is taking place of the cream. We're going to put in a tablespoon of this and a little more of this. Start your mixer slow and build up the speed. Avoid that powder cook. And it's still looking a little dry, which is okay because we're going to end up using 4 tablespoons of this. We'll put in another tablespoon of this. And a little more of this. That's 2 tablespoons. Starting to come together. I just want to keep scraping so there's no chunks of anything on the bottom. And another tablespoon. This is our 3rd tablespoon. You can use up to 6 tablespoons of the milk depending on how creamy or fluffy you like it. Half of what's left of the sugar. Okay, 1 more tablespoon of the milk. And this time, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla for flavor, just for the flavor. And if you used vanilla soy milk, you wouldn't need that. You don't have to use soy milk. You can use rice milk. You can use almond milk, whatever. Now, coconut's okay to use if you have nut allergies because it's not a nut, it's a fruit. There are people, however, like my daughter, who have a specific allergy to coconut. That's when you want to use the Crisco. That's almost all whipped up. I want to scrape the sides because there's some powdered sugar creeping up the sides. And then we're just going to whip it until we like it, till we like the consistency. Just a couple more minutes. Now we printed this recipe into a Google document because it's kind of made up. And there's a link on the site where the show is. For these, it's going to take, you can color this. You can make it pink or blue or green. I'm going to get this and make a little whoop on top, and there you have it. So you're just going to do that with all of those? Okay, so that was a little longer than usual, but we did make a lot of stuff tonight. 2 different frostings and 2 different cakes. So you can see how easy it is to alter things, and we'll do that again with other recipes. Next time, in 2 weeks, we're going to be making dinner again.
This is all I can find.
Do you want a cupcake?
No, this is all I can find.
She'll be out for a cupcake in a minute. Okay, so next time we're going to make a slow cooker sausage jambalaya for our Sunday dinner. And for our Saturday dinner, we're going to be making apricot turkey burgers, a Middle Eastern recipe with tzatziki sauce. And I hope you'll join us. We appreciate your viewership. Thank you.